I was one bill away from homelessness for 3 years before the bill finally came. I knew it. I felt it every month, but knowing didn't stop it. My name is Richard. I'm 71 years old. I worked as a logistics coordinator for 42 years. I retired at 68 with savings, a budget, and a plan that felt careful. And one medical bill erased all of it. Not because I was reckless, not because I ignored the risks, but because the system assumed I could absorb a cost I didn't know was coming. I couldn't. This is what happened when stability was closer to collapse than I ever understood. Retirement was supposed to be the safe part. That's what I was told my entire working life. Show up, work hard, save what you can. Don't take risks. Wait until you're ready, then step back and let the savings carry you. I did all of that. I worked for the same company for 34 years. I started in the warehouse. I moved up to inventory management. Eventually, I became a logistics coordinator. I wasn't management, but I wasn't entry level either. I made decent money. Not great money, but enough. I contributed to my 401k when I could. Some years I maxed out the company match. Some years I couldn't. But I contributed something almost every year. I didn't buy new cars. I drove the same Honda Accord for 14 years. I didn't take expensive vacations. I went to the beach once with my sister. I visited my daughter twice a year when she lived out of state. That was it. I didn't eat out much. I didn't buy things I didn't need. I waited. I waited because that's what responsible people did. When I retired at 68, I had $47,000 in savings. It wasn't a fortune. I knew people who retired with more, but it felt like enough. Enough to cover emergencies. Enough to give me time if something went wrong. Enough to let me breathe. I thought that's what savings were for. I thought I had built a buffer between myself and disaster. I was wrong about what an emergency costs when you're 70 years old. I was also wrong about how fast it could take everything. The medical bill came in March. It was for $18,000. It wasn't for surgery. It wasn't for experimental treatment or a rare condition. It was for a 3-day hospital stay after I developed pneumonia. I'd been feeling sick for about a week, coughing, fever, shortness of breath. I thought it was a cold. I waited for it to pass. It didn't pass. My daughter called one night and heard me struggling to breathe. She told me to go to the emergency room. I didn't want to. I told her I'd be fine. She drove over and took me herself. They admitted me that night. I stayed for 3 days. They gave me oxygen, antibiotics through an IV, chest x-rays, monitoring. I felt better by the 3rd day. They discharged me with prescriptions and a follow-up appointment. I thought that was the end of it. Then the bill arrived. I have Medicare. I have supplemental insurance. I paid my premiums on time every month for 6 years after I retired. $187 a month for the supplement. I never missed a payment. I thought I was covered. But I didn't know the deductible reset every January. I didn't know it was $6,000. I didn't know my supplement didn't cover it. The hospital stay happened in February, 2 months into the year, 2 months after the reset. The deductible was $6,000. The co-insurance after that was about $8,400. The medications they sent me home with came out to another $1,100. Total out-of-pocket ended up being $18,000. I stared at the bill for 3 days. I called the hospital billing department. I asked if there was a mistake. They said no. They walked me through every charge. It was all correct. I called my insurance company. I asked why the supplement didn't cover the deductible. They explained the policy to me, politely, clearly, like I should have already known. Maybe I should have, but I didn't. I had the money. I had $47,000 in savings, so I paid it. I wrote the check. I mailed it. I watched the balance in my account drop, and then I had $29,000 left. At the time, I thought that was still enough. I thought I could rebuild it. I thought the worst part was over. I was wrong. 6 months later, my landlord knocked on my door. He told me the rent was increasing. Not by much, just $200 a month. He apologized. He said it was normal for the area. Property taxes had gone up, insurance had gone up, maintenance costs had gone up. He wasn't trying to push anyone out. I believed him. I had been paying $1,100 a month for a one-bedroom apartment in a quiet complex 20 minutes outside the city. It was older. The carpet was worn. The refrigerator made noise. But it was clean and safe and affordable. Now it was $1,300. My Social Security check is $1,510 a month. After rent, I had $210 left. For everything else, utilities ran about $90 a month. Electric, water, trash. Sometimes more in the summer when I used the air conditioning, sometimes less in the winter. Car insurance was $75 a month. That left $45 for food, gas, medications, and anything else that came up. It wasn't enough. So I started pulling from savings, just to cover the gap. Just $400 a month at first. Maybe $500 some months when the prescriptions came due or when the car needed gas. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself I'd find a cheaper apartment. I started looking. I called apartment complexes. I checked listings online at the library. I drove around looking for rent signs. But every cheaper place I found wanted the same thing up front. First month's rent, last month's rent, and a security deposit. That's $3,600 just to move in. I didn't have $3,600 anymore. I'd spent it on the hospital bill. So I stayed where I was. And I watched the savings account drop every month. $29,000 in September, $24,000 by December, $18,000 by March, $12,000 by June. I started making adjustments. I stopped taking 2 of my medications, not the critical ones, not the blood pressure medication or the cholesterol medication. Those I kept. But the ones for joint pain, I stopped those. The ones for sleep, I stopped those too. They felt optional. The pain got worse. My knees hurt when I walked. My hands ached in the morning. I stopped sleeping well. I'd wake up at 3 a.m. and couldn't fall back asleep. But I saved $120 a month. I started eating less. 1 meal a day, usually. 2 if I had enough left over. I stopped buying meat. I bought rice in bulk, canned vegetables, bread, peanut butter, things that lasted. Unfortunately, I lost weight. I felt tired all the time. I felt weak when I stood up too fast. But I saved another $80 a month. I stopped driving unless I absolutely had to. The car sat in the parking lot for weeks at a time. I walked to the grocery store. It was 1.5 miles each way. I carried the bags home. It took longer, but I saved on gas. I walked to the pharmacy when I needed to pick up prescriptions. I walked to the post office. I walked everywhere. My knees hurt, but I saved money. I canceled my internet. I went to the library if I needed to look something up. I stopped going anywhere that wasn't necessary. No coffee, no newspapers, no small things that used to make the day feel normal. And I kept paying rent every month and on time, because I didn't know what happened if I stopped. I didn't know where I would go. I didn't know what came next. So I kept paying, and I kept pulling from savings, and I kept telling myself I'd figure it out before the money ran out. But I didn't. The savings account hit zero in April. 18 months after the hospital bill, I couldn't pay rent. I couldn't pay the deposit to move somewhere cheaper. I couldn't afford to stay, and I couldn't afford to leave. I sat at the kitchen table and looked at the numbers again. I'd looked at them 100 times. They didn't change. I called my sister in Ohio. I hadn't asked her for money in 40 years, but I called her. She listened. She didn't say much. Then she said she could send $400. That's all she had. Her husband was on disability. They were barely getting by themselves. I thanked her. I told her not to worry about it. She sent it anyway. It wasn't enough. I called the county assistant's office. I sat on hold for 35 minutes. When someone finally answered, they told me there was a program for emergency rental assistance, but the wait list was 4 months long. They told me to apply anyway. I applied. I called a friend from work, someone I hadn't spoken to in 3 years. We used to eat lunch together in the break room. He was a good guy. I told him what was happening. He didn't ask questions. He offered to lend me $1,000. He said I could pay it back whenever I could. He said he needed it back in 60 days, but he'd try to be flexible. I didn't take it. I knew I couldn't pay it back. I didn't know where I'd get $1,000 in 60 days. I didn't want to owe him money I couldn't return. So I thanked him and told him I'd figure it out. I stopped answering the landlord's calls. 2 weeks later, there was an eviction notice taped to my door. I had 30 days. I spent the first week trying to find a room to rent, something cheaper, a room in someone's house, a basement apartment, anywhere I could afford on $1,510 a month. I found a few places. I called the numbers. I explained my situation, but they all wanted the same things: proof of income, references, a deposit. I had Social Security statements, but I didn't have references. I didn't have a deposit. Most of them stopped returning my calls after the first conversation. I spent the second week looking at shelters. I called around. Most of them were full. The ones that weren't had wait lists. Some of the wait lists were months long. I put my name on every list I could find. I spent the third week packing my car. I didn't have much. Clothes, a few books, some photos of my daughter when she was young, photos of my wife before she passed. I left the furniture. I left the kitchen supplies. I left the TV. I left everything I couldn't fit in the back seat and the trunk. On the last day of the month, I cleaned the apartment. I vacuumed. I wiped down the counters. I took out the trash. Then I turned in my keys, and I started living in my car. I parked in different places every night: grocery store parking lots, rest stops, side streets in neighborhoods where no one would notice an old Honda with someone sleeping in the back seat. I used the gym membership I still had to shower, $10 a month. It was the only bill I kept paying besides the phone. I ate at soup kitchens when I could find them. I went to the food bank on Thursdays. I used the library during the day to stay warm and charge my phone. I did that for 5 weeks. Then a bed opened up at a shelter downtown. I'm still there. The room is small. There are 6 other men in the same space. We sleep on cots arranged in 2 rows. We share 1 bathroom, 1 sink, 1 shower. The lights go off at 10 p.m. They come back on at 6 a.m. I don't know when I'm leaving. I don't know if I'm leaving. I'm on the wait list for subsidized senior housing. They told me it could take 2 years, maybe longer. There are a lot of people waiting. I still get my Social Security check every month, $1,510. But without savings, without a deposit, without references, I can't rent anywhere. I can't go back. The bill was $18,000. I had $47,000 saved when I retired. I thought that was enough. I thought I had done everything right, but I was always one bill away from this. I just didn't know. The bill had already come.